Good morning, everyone. Welcome to you all from all around the world. We have people from Australia, we have New Zealand, we have Africa, we have Scandinavia and Europe, and of course, hundreds and hundreds of people in the UK as well. This is one of our busiest webinars. Over 600 people registered for this webinar today, and good to see you here. And thank you very much for spending some of your Friday with me today. I promise you that I will not be wasting your time. I'll be giving you plenty of really good quality information that sometimes is deceptively straightforward, because I'm going to be showing you what it takes to buy a business. And very, very specifically, I'm going to tell you how you can buy a business in 29 days with a 90% discount. Now, that's a pretty catchy title for a webinar, and it's based upon what I have just done. I completed on a purchase of a business last Friday, so a week ago, and I had the idea to explain to people how to do this on Monday. So we've been sort of advertising this webinar since Monday, and quite remarkable. We have hundreds and hundreds of people on the webinar today, so very quickly. But I'm going to show you how I bought that business, why I bought that business. I'm going to show you the accounts. I'm going to show you the profitability. I'm going to show you the potential in the business. I'm going to show you how much the seller wanted for the business. I'm going to show you how much I bought the business for. I'm going to show you all the numbers. So I'm going to reveal everything to you. I'm going to show you how it was funded. I'm going to show you how you get your money back. I'm going to show you all of these things. I'm also going to show you how much that business is worth if you sold it. So I'm going to really show you some behind the curtain of what it looks like to buy a business, but not just buy a business in today's environment. And I think that's a really critical point. Buy a business in today's environment, which is massively different to buying a business 3 or 4 months ago. A lot has changed worldwide. So wherever you are in the world, what I'm talking about today is incredibly relevant to what is happening in your country and what you can do. I have people join our training programs from all over the world. It makes absolutely no difference. This information is absolutely relevant to you. And I think what it does, it shows you what is truly possible. It shows you what the private equity firms are doing right now. And of course, they're not public about this. They're not going to be telling you the details of these deals. So I'm going to be showing you how to buy businesses, and I'm going to show you how to buy SMEs, so businesses that are typically sub 10 million pounds in revenue, although these principles apply to larger. The majority of my clients are buying SMEs and doing very well as a result. In actual fact, I would say that if you've been thinking about buying a business for some years, you're on this webinar at precisely the right point. I think if you've been on this webinar maybe 2 months ago, it would have been too early, but right now is absolutely the precise moment in time where you need to get your ducks in a row to look at what's available, because you never know. All it takes is one business to change everything. All it takes is one acquisition to change all your financials in your current business. All it takes is one acquisition to be able to quit your day job and do this business buying for a living. One acquisition is all it doesn't need hundreds. So I know that from the messages that you were sending me earlier, many of you know me. And that is, I'm very appreciative that you come back, you've read my books, you listen to the podcast, you watch my YouTube videos, and I'm very appreciative that you are returning customers, as it were, of my content. So thank you very much. But I'm also understand that many people don't know me. This is the first time we've interacted. I've been on webinars where they spend 45 minutes telling you their life story. Have you ever been on one of those? And quite frankly, I just turn off. So instead of 45 minutes, I've just got just 3 things I think are worth mentioning. I've been buying and selling businesses for 21 years, since 1999. And the first thing I want to tell you is quite frankly, is a bit of a boast, but it is an honest boast. And buying and selling businesses made me a multi-millionaire at the age of 36. And if you're trying to work that out, I'm 48 and a half now. So I've been doing this a long time, and I've been doing it successfully for a long time. I'm very aware on the internet, people pop up who were working for someone else last year, and now they've been on my webinar just and regurgitating it to other people. But this is the real deal, if you like. And I'll explain some of these deals as we go through the webinar today. I've written 10 business books, and I presented TV shows for the BBC. And I went to my bookshelves. Actually, you can see my bookshelves behind me. And I went through and I picked out my 10 books from the last 16 years. So I wrote this book in 2004, so 16 years ago. It's called Sack Your Boss. It's all about quitting your day job and starting a business from scratch. And then that was edited and turned into a slightly different format that went into the shops. And I'm not counting that in my 10 because that's really quite similar to the first one. And then I did that book in 2007, that book in 2008, just hold that up so you can see that there. Unsung Business Heroes, that was 2009. Overnight Business Success, that was in 2010. A couple of years later, this one just here, that was a chunky one. And then about 6 months after that, I was on a roll that year, that one there. And then How to Buy and Sell Great Businesses. And then most recently, Business Buying Strategies and 101 tough business Buying a Business, 101 Tough Questions Answered. Now, if you'd like a PDF copy of both of these books, at the very end of the webinar, I will tell you how you can get one free of charge, okay? So I'll give those to you as a gift, but I'll be telling you how to get it at the end of the webinar, so hang on for that. And also, I help other people buy businesses. I have a program, a year-long program that's £12,000 ahead, and I have about 100 people plus per annum do that program. And you may wonder, because if you've been on webinars before, why is this guy doing a free webinar? He's not doing it for his health. Is he going to sell us something at the end? Is there a business purpose for doing this webinar? Well, if you're thinking that, I certainly don't want to disappoint you. So absolutely, yes, there is. So at the end of the webinar, I will tell you how, if you'd like me to be your business buying mentor, how I can help you in an online video training format. So it doesn't matter where in the world you are, but it won't be the £12,000 that I charge for the mastermind. It'll be just a few £100 that I believe, if you really want to do this, is affordable to just about anyone. So that's 3 things that I think you need to know about me. There is actually a 4th thing that's occurred to me, is that I've been using the same photo for at least 10 years, and I really must get myself a new photo. I mean, that Photoshop is really starting to wear a little bit thin, don't you think? So, that is me. So what's today's webinar all about? Well, it's about several things, but broadly speaking, it's about making the most of the opportunity that's happening right now. And if you haven't noticed, there is an opportunity to buy businesses for pennies in the pound if you know where to look, how to put the deal together, understand the legals. And by the way, I need to add in my disclaimer. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I do not give legal advice. Don't give tax advice. Don't give accountancy advice. I just tell you what I do. But you should always have someone on your team who's a professional lawyer, qualified accountant, qualified tax, and so forth. And I always like to get that out of the way nice and early. It's kind of obvious, but I think it needs to be said. So I'm going to show you how to make the most of the opportunity happening right now. And I'm also going to inspire you to realize that there's more to business than sitting behind a desk. Now, if you own a company right now, and I reckon half the people on the webinar own a business and half the people want to own a business. So if you currently own a business, then sitting behind a desk every day, quite frankly, is, it used to drive me absolutely crazy, because all I'd have is a queue of staff asking me, could you solve this problem? Could you solve that problem? Could you do all these things for me? And that doing was just crazy. And when I switched my mindset from a doer to a deal maker, everything changed. And I'll tell you more about that as we go through the webinar and we look at some of these case studies. I also want to motivate you to take action. I mean, you were sufficiently motivated to decide to spend your Friday morning with me. That's brilliant. But quite frankly, what happens after the webinar is actually more important than what happens on the webinar. So you've taken the first step, and I want to motivate you to take action, to take the second step, the third step, the fourth step, and so forth. And I'm going to give you, as part of this webinar, a multi-step process for buying a business. I give you the big picture of what you do first, what you do second, what you do third. I'll lay it out for you, so you've got it all in front of you. So here's a question that I'm going to ask you right up front. Would you like to be luckier in business? Would you like to be luckier? Now, we'd all like to be a little luckier because, yeah, when we watch people get lucky, we say, oh, it just fell into their laps. You know, they just seem to be so lucky. It all seems to go their way. Well, I heard a phrase years ago, and I must admit, I never knew who apparently said this phrase. It was actually a Roman philosopher. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. And that apparently was said by the Roman philosopher Seneca, who sounds like something you take to sleep better at night. But that is apparently what he said. Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. So I want you to consider that today's webinar is part of the preparation. Today's webinar is part of the preparation. And I'm going to show you where to find the opportunity. So when the preparation and the opportunity combine, that is when you get luckier in business. And I want to introduce you to some people who I helped prepare, who then, when they saw the opportunity, realized it was an opportunity and knew how to make the most of it. So these are clients. These are people who have paid me money for my support and my help. And this is Perry. Perry did 2 multi-million-pound acquisitions in a year. Now, these are screenshots of videos where I've interviewed these people on my YouTube channel. If you are not subscribed to the Jonathan J YouTube channel, get yourself, go and click the subscribe button, not now, later after the webinar, because these are very useful videos if you are interested in buying a business. So Perry has done 2 multi-million-pound acquisitions in a 12-month period. This is Andy. He did 3 acquisitions in 12 months, and the first doubled the size of his company. So let me explain what I mean by that. So Andy had run a company in the digital marketing space for 10 years, and it got it to a certain size. Okay, well, that's normal. That's what everyone does. You get to a certain size, 10 years of hard work. He then was introduced to me. We started working together. I helped him get his strategy right, which is really, really key. I'll explain a bit more about strategy later. I helped him get his strategy right. I then taught him the tactics that he needed, and he went out and he bought a business without risking any of his own cash, which obviously is a nice bonus. So that first acquisition had the effect of taking where he was after 10 years of hard work, and within a matter of months, doubling the size of that business. 10 years to get here, 3 months to get here. Which would you prefer? So that's Andy. Here's John. John's done 3 acquisitions from administrators in the last year. May have done more by now, actually. I need to check. But he has been buying businesses from the administrators. Now, I'll be telling you a little bit later on about buying businesses from administrators, because right now there are more businesses going into administration than there have been for the last 10 years. This is an opportunity for you to buy the assets of those businesses, leave the liabilities with the administrators, just buy the assets, buy the good parts. And this allows you to pick up a business at an absolute bargain. And then here's Andy looking rather serious in that shot. And again, this is a screenshot from a video interview that's on my YouTube channel. And he bought his first profitable business for £1. So I invited him onto the TV show, on the Dealmakers TV show, to talk to everyone about how he did this. So are these things possible? Yes, of course they are. If you are prepared for the opportunity, then you become immediately an awful lot luckier. So here's a question. Why buy a business rather than start a business or grow a business? Why would you buy a business rather than start a business or grow a business? Well, here's the first reason. You can buy instant cash flow. So from day one, there's money and profit coming through the door. So you make an acquisition to get instant cash flow. The cash flow happens from the moment you legally own the business. When you buy a business, you're buying a business with all the systems and processes already set up. Years ago, I used to help startup businesses as part of different programs. I used to help people with their startup businesses. And it was always amazing how someone would spend 6 months figuring out what their logo looked like, and then a year getting their website set up. Maybe you've been in that situation yourself. But if you buy a business, you've already got a logo, you've already got a website, you've already got a CRM, you've already got the accounting system set up, there's already an accountant, you've already a bookkeeper. It's all done. You've got everything in place already. And if the business is established and you've bought a business that's got a decent, good reputation, then you've already got a good reputation. It takes years for a startup to build a good reputation. You buy a business, it's already there. And you can grow your existing company faster via acquisition than you ever could organically. Let me explain the difference. Organic growth is one customer at a time. Hey, let's win a new customer today. Let's get another couple of customers next week. Hey, we've lost a customer. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. All right. When you buy a business, you suddenly have another 100 customers or 200 or 500 or 1,000, depending upon the type of business and how big the business is. So you get that immediate growth as opposed to this slow organic growth. And I've got to tell you, many of the people who come on my programs don't want to wait for years. They want to do it faster. And some of my older clients don't have the time in their head to do it over the next 20 years. They want to do it over the next 2 or 3 years. So I'll show you how you can do that today. But why would you be interested in buying a business now? Now, I would imagine that you're on this webinar for a reason, because I do not think that people who don't realize there is a worldwide opportunity here would actually come onto a webinar like this today anyway. But why buy a business right now? Let me remind you why to buy a business right now. The start of a recession works in your favor, the buyer. And we are at the start of a recession. So if you're going to be the buyer of a business, you are in the right point in the economic cycle to start the thinking about the acquisition process. You don't have to go and buy something tomorrow, but you should start preparing. So when the opportunity arises, you can grab the opportunity with both hands. You see, price and terms are massively favorable to you right now. BMV stands for below market value. You can buy businesses right now below market value. Speed. You can do deals faster now than you might have been able to do 6 months ago. And by the way, you can do these via Zoom. You know, the one that I'm going to be telling you about as the case study today, I didn't meet anyone. I didn't meet anyone face to face. I didn't meet the owner. I didn't go to the premises. Did it all virtually. You can do this from your living room. You don't have to be there in person. Right now, deals just feel easier. There's less resistance. The other side, the seller, is not being the tough guy negotiator they might have been 3, 4, 5 months ago. Right now, people who are thinking of selling are glad that you, the buyer, are on a phone call with them. They're glad about that. And this is a technical point, and I realize that we're not going to go into this in a lot of detail in today's webinar, but asset deals are winning over share deals. The wonderful thing about buying assets is that there is zero risk. Everything I'm doing at the moment is an asset deal. It means your legal fees are lower. It means everything moves faster. You know exactly what you're buying, and you'll never be stung with the previous owner's liabilities. So just as a point, if you're serious about doing this, remember, asset deals are winning right now over share deals. But what will buying a business do for you? You see, 3 things. You'll be released from the day-to-day of running the business. Now, this might seem a little crazy if right now all you do is sit behind a desk and manage your business. Or if you're thinking about buying a business, you probably think you've got to go to the office every day and look after the staff. Yeah, that's if you think like an operator, like a doer. If you start thinking like a deal maker, what will happen is that you will be released from the day-to-day. So right now, I've got over 100 staff, and most of my staff are in their 20s. And those of you who employ people, and maybe especially employ people in their 20s, you do get people calling in sick, and you get all manner of issues and things you've got to sort out. Wonderful thing is, if you ask me to give you the names of my staff, I know one, and I know the first name of 3 others, but I don't know them because I have a management, and I'm not saying that as it may seem an odd thing to say, but I say that because how could I own the businesses that I own if everyone was reporting to me? It would be an absolute nightmare. I'd wake up to all the text messages saying, sorry, I'm ill, I can't come in today, i.e. I'm hungover, right? We know that's code for hungover. I don't get involved in the day-to-day because I don't like it. I'm not good at it. Other people are better at it. And quite frankly, I pay them so that I don't have to get involved myself. You will make more money buying and selling than ever being an operator, without any doubt whatsoever. You will make more money buying and selling businesses than you ever will from being someone who just operates a business. Michael Gerber wrote a book over 30 years ago called The E-Myth. It's a great book. If you've never read it, I'm going to save you the time and trouble of reading it by summarizing it in one sentence. The one sentence was, work on your business rather than in your business. And most business owners, they call themselves owners, but they just work in their business. They're managers. They're glorified managers. When you become a deal maker, you start working on the business. And that is really where, quite frankly, the money is. Now, you can buy, build, and sell every 3 years. You see, often when people get into the business, they say, well, will I be doing this for 10 years, 20 years? Many people in business have been for 10, 20, even longer. However, I ask all of the people that I work with to think of business as a 3-year cycle. A 3-year cycle of buying businesses, putting them together, and then selling them, taking a long holiday, doing it again, maybe in a different sector, possibly in the same sector, all depends. But you can buy and build and sell every 3 years, i.e., you can have a large dollop of cash arrive in your bank account every 36 months from the sale of your new group. You've just got to know where the opportunities are, be prepared for the opportunities, and then suddenly you'll become very, very lucky. You see, the first time I saw a massive return on investment buying a bus business was actually in 2007. It's 13 coming up to 14 years ago. And this was a business that in year 1 did £960,000 of revenue. Now, that's not bad for year 1 of any business. And this was a long time ago. So, this is when £960,000 actually could buy you something. Unlike today, of course. That was a joke, just in case you're wondering. Year 2, £1.4 million of revenue. Year 3, £1.9 million. So we're seeing a lovely, gentle upward growth curve here. Year 4, £2.2 million of revenue. You might be thinking, well, this business is just going great. Sky's the limit. Where is it going to go next? The answer was, it went nowhere. It went nowhere. Year 5, nowhere. So find that little Q&A box that you've got on your screen. I want you to type into that box, what you think happened between year 4 and year 5. What happened between year 4 and year 5? What actually went on there? So just type it into the box and it will pop up on my screen. I'll read out as many as I can. Plateau, that's a good word. Peak, that's a great word as well. Well, loads of them. Plateau, recession. It wasn't actually a recession, but yeah, I know what you mean. Business stagnated, saturation. Yeah, good point. Business as usual. Nothing happened. Yeah, that's the point. Saturated the market. Owner and manager took their eye off the ball. Well, yep, that was me, I suppose. Plateau, capacity of owner reached. Yeah, maybe that's true. Yeah, thank you, anonymous attendee. How very polite. Someone went to sleep, reached a ceiling. Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you what happened. We reached a point where we couldn't grow anymore doing what we were doing. quite simply, repeating what we were doing wouldn't get us the growth that we wanted. We had to do something radically different. So we did something radically different. Look what happened the next year. Look what happened. We went to 5.1 million pounds of revenue. 5.1 million pounds of revenue in year 6. So we did something radically different. What did we do? We bought a practically bust competitor. We bought the assets. Remember what I said about assets rather than shares. And we did it in a matter of a few days. Let me explain. The owner wanted to meet me. He phoned me up on a Sunday afternoon. He said, Jonathan, I'd like you to come up to Wolverhampton to meet me because I've got a business proposition for you. And I said, well, it has to be a very good business proposition for me to visit Wolverhampton. Are you sure? And he said, I promise you, it was a very good business proposition. So I went up to see him on the Monday afternoon. That was Monday afternoon. By Friday of the same week, 4 days later, I owned that business. I owned the business 4 days later. So when people say they haven't got time to buy a business, what you're really saying is you don't have a process. You don't have a system. You don't really know what you're doing, because it doesn't take a long period of time if you have a process and you know what you are doing. So we bought the business in a 4-day period. We bought the assets rather than the shares. And the assets were tables and chairs and some secondhand computers. So we bought the assets for a very, very small amount. It was quite frankly just write a check and there's the check and we own the assets. But what it had the impact on our business, because we removed a competitor from the marketplace, it had the impact of massively increasing our revenue. And of course, profit followed as well. Actually, in fact, profit went up because we were no longer marketing against our competitor. Now, at the beginning of that year, 2007, I sat down with my accountant and we said, okay, if we sold this business right now, what could we sell it for? What could we sell it for? What would be a sensible amount that someone would give us for this business? Well, the figure we came back with was £2.5 million. Now, £2.5 million wasn't too shabby, not too shabby at all. But then, of course, during the summer of that year, that's when we bought the bus business. That's when I went and got my hands in the space of 4 days on that bust business. And then I sold that combined group on the 17th of November, 2007, to a private equity firm based in London. And I sold it for £7 million. And that's not shares, that's not promises, that's cash. So look at the difference between your value at the beginning of the year and your value at the end of the year. It's nearly 3 times the amount. Now, here's the thing. I did it by buying a semi-bust competitor. Here's my question to you. Could you do exactly the same? The answer is, well, of course you can. If you know where to look, if you know how to do the deal, if you've got the deal team, and if you know how to take action when you spot the opportunity. So here's the question. Where do you find a business to buy at a 90% discount? I always go off market. What that means is I go to people who are thinking of selling but haven't yet marketed their business. So I don't go to business brokers. I don't go to websites. I go direct to the owners of the business. And if they are not on a website advertising their business for sale, and they're not with a broker advertising their business for sale, at this stage, they are thinking about selling their business. They haven't yet done anything about it. And that's the way I like it. Why? Because there's no competition. You see, as soon as that website goes with a broker, there are going to be other people interested. Now, I'm a pretty competitive person, but quite frankly, I'd prefer to stack the cards in my favor. If I'm going to buy a business, I want to come out of this smelling of roses. I want the very best deal possible, so I can eliminate my competition for that same business by talking to the owner directly before they go and list it with a broker who's like an estate agent or on a website. Secondly, at the stage that someone has not yet spoken to a broker, their expectations around value are far more sensible. because, broadly speaking, brokers, and some brokers in particular, can exaggerate the value of a business. And therefore, in the mind of the owner, they think they're sitting on a multi-million pound fortune when the business actually isn't that spectacular after all. So here's the thing. If you want sensible talks and conversations about valuation, get to these people before the broker does. And thirdly, I've got first mover advantage. I have got the ability to build a relationship with that owner to the point that they want to sell to me. Because quite frankly, if they don't want to sell to you, they won't sell to you. So I want people who want to sell to me. I don't want to be pushing water uphill here. I want people who want me to be the new owner. And what I'm looking for is something called the star deal. Now, if you're writing things down, and I hope many of you are, then this is something that you might want to jot down. The star deal. So the star deal has 5 different elements. And you could think of this star deal as a deal that kind of like you've got stars in your eyes, you're reaching for the stars, whichever way you want to interpret this. But there are 5 elements. First of all, motivation. I want to find the owner of a business who is motivated to sell. The one thing that turns me off is when the owner says, well, yeah, I might be interested in selling, but I'm in no hurry, make me an offer. No, thanks. I'm not making offers. By the way, people who make offers to buy businesses, and if people haven't done my training, I know because they send me messages saying, hey, I put in this offer to buy a business and it was rejected. What do I do next? Well, first of all, there's only so much free advice I can give people who aren't clients. But my first is, well, you haven't done the training. That's why. You want to buy a multi-million pound business, but you're not willing to invest a few £100s in some training, which sounds a little crazy to me. But the thing is, you don't want to be making offers to buy businesses, because that is you are immediately going to deposition yourself. I want someone who says, well, Jonathan, really, I'd like to sell yesterday or tomorrow or as quickly as possible. I want to sell this business fast. Great, because now I've got someone who's motivated to do a deal with me. I don't want someone who is just testing the water. Then I want someone who's got a sensible concept around valuation. And this is really important. They've got to have a sensible concept around valuation. Now, this, of course, is someone who hasn't spoken to a broker, someone who realizes that, let me tell you a good one that I had recently. They were in the accounts, they were making a loss of £10,000, but the broker had convinced them that the business was worth £500,000, exactly, a nice round figure, £500,000. So I said to the owner, I said, so how do we get from a business that's making a loss, i.e. making a loss of 10,000, which means you've got to put £10,000 in that year in order to pay the bills, to a business that's valued at £500,000? How do we make that leap? And he said, I don't know. And this is his business. I don't know. So if I get to people first, I then have a more sensible conversation around valuation. I look for a business with potential. Later on, I'm going to give you the 3 things that I look for when it comes for potential in a business. And if it ticks these 3 boxes, then it's a business that I'm interested in buying. 4, structure. I need to be able to structure this deal to do several things. I need to either be able to use other people's money to buy the business, OPM, other people's money to buy the business. And that might be a lender. It might be an individual. It might even be the owner of the business themselves to buy the business. Alternatively, if I have to put some money in, I want to be able to get that money out as quickly as possible so that it becomes a cash neutral deal. So I want my investment to come back as quickly as possible so I can do it again somewhere else. So I'm looking for a deal structure. And this is how we put the deal together. By the way, people who don't know anything about buying a business think that you go and borrow money from the bank, second charge against your house, write a check to the owner of the business. The owner, you give the check to the owner gives you the shares. Hey, you've got a company. Well, you can do it like that, but you'll lose your shirt if you do. Simplicity. I want a deal that looks simple in that, when there's multiple owners and one owner's in this country, one owner wants to sell, one doesn't. I mean, goodness me, there are so many deals out there. Let's go and find the simple ones. So how do I find buyers like this? Let me tell you 3 things that I don't do, because these are the 3 things that I don't enjoy doing. First, cold calling. Yeah, I see people give advice around this that is the most ridiculous advice. And they say you've got to make thousands of cold calls to find a business. I don't cold call. Come on. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Because I know how I'd feel if someone phoned me up and say, hey, Jonathan, do you want to sell your business? I think, who are you? That's what I would think. Who are you? So no cold calling, no emailing. You're like, oh my goodness. People would say, oh, well, I can just send out emails to people. No, cut out the emails. You're wasting your time. No networking. I mean, you can't do it in these days anyway. You can't do it right now anyway. And I'm not a great networker. I mean, goodness me, I avoid networking events. So how do I do it if these are the ways I don't do it? Well, I use what I call the motivated seller letter. Now, if you're under the age of 30 on this webinar today, you might be wondering what I mean by letter. You say, Jonathan, surely you've got that wrong. Don't you mean email? No, I mean letter. It's a piece of paper with ink on it, with a signature at the bottom that goes in an envelope and through the postal system and arrives on someone's doormat, okay? That is a letter. And I use what we call a motivated seller letter. Now, I have a letter that I have been using for years, and I've tweaked it over the years to improve it to the point that I don't think I can improve it anymore. And this letter has been responsible for 340 people contacting me in the last 12 months alone saying, Jonathan, I got your letter. I'd like to talk to you. And they don't say it in these words, but what is going through their head is, I'm a motivated seller. I want to sell my business quickly. Can I talk to you about this? It's called the motivated seller letter. You need to have a motivated seller letter in order to find these off-market deals. Now, here are some stats for you. For every 30 letters I send, I find 1 potential deal. In other words, for less than £30, I can find 1 interesting business. So first class post in the UK is what, 75, 76 pence. And then I actually pay someone to put the letters in envelopes. I don't do it myself. So it costs like £1 a letter. So for £30, I can find 1 interesting business. But having said that, my clients, the people on my programs, are sending out hundreds and sometimes thousands of letters. Right now, we've got a mailing of 9,000 of these letters going out to businesses in my sector. Now, here's the thing. Would I do something like that if it didn't work? Of course I wouldn't. I would be absolutely crazy to do something like that if it didn't work. So let me just share with you a couple of notes that were sent to me. I've got them here on my phone. Let me just find, I had them all set up earlier. And so let me just read out a couple here. So Darren Jacobs. So you won't be able to see that too well, but sent 200. So he goes, so the letters work very, very well. Sent 250 on Wednesday out of a batch of 2,500 going out over the course of June. My phone has, this is written on the 30th of May. My phone hasn't stopped ringing. Okay. Here's another one. Claire Thomas. Claire Thomas. Today has been crazy. 3 conversations with business owners and 1 email for a conversation tomorrow. As I've been very focused on who gets a letter, that makes my response rate of almost 40%. Here's another one. There's a big, long message here. I actually, when I screenshotted this, I cut off the person's name, but sent 362 letters to guest houses and hotel owners in my target towns. Received 17 contacts, 14 phone conversations so far, 11 appointments now made over the next 4 weeks. I'm absolutely positive we will require at least 3 to 4 prospects. These are all people who've been on my fast track training course, all right? They know how to do it. They've got the letter. They have the process. They know what to say. The point I'm making, this is the way to do it. This is the way it works. You can go and make up your own system. You can go and make up your own process, but why reinvent the wheel? So let me give you an overview of the business buying process. So we've done all this, we've got our letters out, and people start to phone us, okay? This is really important. What do you say on that first call? What do you say on the first call? What do you say to these people? You've got to have a process. I have 14 questions that I ask every single time. And you know something? I had these 14 questions on a piece of paper in front of me. Yeah. I forget things too. Everyone does. I want to make sure I get these 14 questions answered. And that will tell me whether this is a deal worth pursuing to a second Zoom meeting. But before we do that, we need to get some information from the owner of the business. Now, some of this information is either a company's house or it's on the internet somewhere, but there are other things that I always want them to send me. And then we're going to meet on Zoom. And we always have an agenda. A Zoom meeting is the same as a face-to-face meeting without the contact. Now, it's good to meet face-to-face, but if you can't, meet on Zoom. It works just as well if you have an agenda and a process to follow. We then negotiate the deal. Now, this is really important. Negotiate the deal, because this is where we determine how much we're going to pay and how we are going to pay it. When I say how we are going to pay it, your goal is to pay as little as possible, preferably nothing on completion. So I've done deals where I've just paid £1 to legally own the business. Now, does that happen every day of the week? Of course it doesn't. Do you have to look really hard for those deals? Of course you do. But you need to have all the tools so that you're prepared for the opportunity when it arises. And then we need to reach what's called heads of terms. Heads of terms is our pre-contract. You don't need a lawyer for this. I have a template that I use. I just fill it in front of them. You can do it on your laptop. If you're there face-to-face, you can handwrite it in. I just use the template. And then we're going to do what's called due diligence. There are 3 types of due diligence: legal, commercial, and financial. Now, the financial is done by your lawyer. The legal is done by your the financial is done by your accountant. The legal is done by your lawyer. The commercial may be done by you, because that's the fun part. That's the Google reviews. That's the mystery shopping. That's the understanding how they get their customers and the marketing. But what I do with my due diligence is I outsource it to my deal team. What is a deal team? A deal team is a group of people who are going to help you buy the business. And you need an amazing deal team. You need people who can take the weight off you. So if you do have a full-time job, your team do all the work while you're at work. If you're running a business, you're running your business and the team are doing all the work while you're running the business. Now, of course, you make the final decisions, but you need that team to support you. Buying a business is not a one-person job. And then we complete. That is the word for legal completion. We now own that business, and then we do this. We do the takeover. And you need to have a plan for takeover. I always say to people on the training, you've got to have a plan for the takeover. You don't figure out the plan after you bought the business. You figure it out before you buy the business. Now, I already have my deal team, and I already know which acquisition and deal structures work for me. So by being prepared, I can make the most of the opportunity. Do you see the theme developing here? I think that everyone on this webinar is going to be able to find businesses to buy. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. But you've got to be prepared, so when you see a business that's for sale, you know what to do and how to address the opportunity. And this is the question I ask myself, the 3 questions I ask myself to decide whether a business is an opportunity. Can the business still make a profit even with a disinterested owner? So this is the disinterested owner is also the motivated seller. It's the same personality, because they're motivated because they're disinterested. They just want to get out. But here's the question to ask yourself. Can that business still make a profit even with a disinterested owner in place? Because if it can, don't you think that that's a good thing? Secondly, has it been poorly managed? You see, if the business has been poorly managed, but it's still making some money, I think that makes it an incredible opportunity, because you can replace poor management. You can bring new people in. You can tidy up their back office. You can get someone to put all their accounting online rather than just piles and piles of paper on someone's desk. So if it's been poorly managed, we can fix that super easily. That's just admin. That's easy. And the third question I ask myself is this: does my knowledge of the sector show me where the opportunity is? And I spend an awful lot of time helping people identify the best type of business to buy that matches their personality, matches their knowledge, and matches their goals and ambition. So I ask myself, does my knowledge of this sector show me where that opportunity is? Now, here is a business that I bought last Friday. It's housed in this building here. You might even recognize it if you're from Manchester. It's in the town centre of Bury, B-U-R-Y, which is in Greater Manchester. It's 25 meters from the shopping centre, so it's right in the centre. It used to be the post office. It was called the old, the correct postal address is the old post office, which is why it's such a beautiful building. And inside this building is a children's nursery and play center. So downstairs, there's all the slides and the soft play areas. If you've got kids, wow, the noise in those places is fantastic. I have a 4-year-old. Oh my goodness, your head is splitting when you come out of there. But upstairs, they must have very good sound installation, because upstairs is the children's nursery. This has been established there for some years. This is the business that I completed on Friday. Now, just to be clear, didn't buy the building. So we leased the building, didn't buy the building. We bought the business that operates out of the building. And I want to show you the accounts for this business up until, I think it's October last year. Yeah, 31st of October last year. And I want you to take note of a couple of numbers here. First of all, these are their turnover. It says £519,603. Now, the first thing I want to say is this. Do you remember our little test about, is this a good opportunity? Well, the seller of this business had no interest in the business. He told me this. He had no interest in this business. Running a nursery wasn't his thing. I can't remember the entire backstory, but it was something to do with a business with his wife, and maybe she was more interested in him. She moved to London. He stayed in Manchester. Oh my goodness, it was all a bit sort of chaotic. But he had no interest in this. But for someone who had no interest in something, he could still get £519,000 of sales in a 12-month period where he was absolutely disinterested. Now, I might drop to the bottom and say, well, it made £46,000 profit, because that's the number at the bottom. Well, yes, in accounting terms, yes. But in real terms, for me as the buyer, it actually made 79,000, which is the second red circle. It made £79,000 profit. But you'll notice that just below that, there's interest payable of £32,000. Now, this guy had taken out a bridging loan, so a high interest bridging loan, to buy this business about a year earlier. I'll tell you how much he paid for it in a moment. About a year earlier. Now, when you do accounts like this, you put in the interest element, because the interest, that what you pay in interest reduces your profitability. Now, think about this. When I buy this business, or when I bought this business, there is no interest. I'm not going to pay the interest on his bridging loan. That's his loan that he pays off. He's paid that off, okay? So I can forget the £32,000 of interest charges, because going forward, they will not exist. Hope that's clear. So that means the true profit is just a tad under £80,000. Now, here's the thing. I know from my experience of this type of business, he's still not making as much money as he should be. So we've got a business that's turning over 520, take out the interest payments, because they won't be mine going forward. So it's making £80,000. But the turnover should be at least 1.2 million. And I know that because of the size of the building and the number of children who can occupy a nursery of that size. It should be 1.2 million. Now, that means that he's currently just under 50% capacity. He's under 50%. Now, so a disinterested owner can do 520. An interested owner with better management, better systems would be able to jump it up to the 1.2 million. Here's the next thing. The profit should be 20% of that 1.2 million, which is £240,000. So the goal is, how quickly can we take that and turn it into that in order to produce that? So this is a business that with proper management and some enthusiasm can get us up to 1.2 million and 240,000 profit. 20% is the industry standard, okay? But look, he's making money still, 80,000 before he pays his interest, with no background in the sector, no interest in the sector, poor management, no marketing. I mean, these guys haven't even got a website, you know, no marketing and no enthusiasm whatsoever. So here is the big question. How could this business perform under new owners? How could it perform under new owners, i.e. me? How could it do? Well, it can do the 1.2 million. It's going to take us, I reckon, 18 months to get there. It'll take us 18 months to get there, but that's absolutely fine. You know, 18 months is not a long time. And then after that 18-month point, it will be making £240,000 profit a year. But here is the kicker. Point number 3 is the kicker. And this is what I want you to pay close attention to. If you own a small business right now, you're thinking of buying a small business, great. But you're underselling yourself, because when you sell that business, it will only ever sell for a value that's in line with a small business. So let me tell you what people on my training programs are doing. They're buying lots of small businesses. And when I say lots, it could be 3, or it could be 6, or it could be 10. I mean, it depends on that person's ambition, I suppose. But when you buy several small businesses and put them together, you have a larger business. And when you sell a larger business, it's worth an awful lot more, because we apply a multiple to the profit to establish the value. See, these small businesses, you can pick them up at 2.5 times, maybe 3 times profit. But when you sell, I know I can sell it for 10 times. So I add this business into my group. And when I sell a group, I can sell it for 10 times profit. So that 240,000 is now multiplied by 10, which gives me a £2.4 million exit value for this business alone. Now, here's the thing. Let me give you some more numbers. So do you see why I'm interested in this? Because I can see the potential. He's done all right by himself without any love for it. He's done all right. I can do better because I can put in a manager. You know, I can do all of these things. It's not difficult to do. I can produce the profit, and when I sell it, it's worth 2.4 million. Do you see why I'm motivated to buy businesses? Do you see why I do this? This is why I do this. But let me give you some other numbers. In 2018, he bought the business for £150,000. All right, £150,000. That's what he needed that bridging loan to buy. In November 2019, he put it up for sale for £275,000. Now, here's the thing. This is a screenshot of a video of me last November on the phone to that particular owner. So why, you might be asking? Well, last year, I videoed 32 deal negotiations for the benefit of the people on my training program. And we had a camera set up in the room. Later, we beeped out the name and anything identifying so that it was anonymous. But this conversation here, this video and I know that some of my clients are actually on the webinar today. You need to go back and find this video if you haven't watched it for a while. I haven't watched it yet, because you'll hear him say, I bought it for £150,000. And he's saying to me, I want £275,000 for it. Now, at the very end of this video, all these videos that I give to clients, I do a little summary. I say, well, it's overpriced, it's this, it's that, it's the other. And at the end of this one, I said, well, it's kind of interesting, but I think he wants a bit too much money for it. And I never went back. I just moved on from that. I mean, that video is available for all my clients to watch, to see the negotiation, how I establish why he thinks it's worth £275,000. But here's the thing. I bought it in June 2020 for £19,995. That's actually a 94% discount. 94% discount. £19,995. And there's that relevant part of the asset purchase agreement, the bit encircled in red. There's the purchase price, $19,995. And this is from Nursery World. This is the industry website where the purchase is Welcome Nurseries, that's my company, has been announced. Now, here's the thing. How do you get your money back out? So in my case, I put £19,995 to buy this business. I was in a fortunate position to have that cash. Actually, not my personal money. It came from our other businesses that we bought. So other businesses that we bought are now financing the acquisition of other businesses. Do you see? We call this momentum acquisition. So you buy one business and the cash flow from that business is by the second. The cash flow from that business is by the third, fourth, and so forth. So it doesn't actually come from your pocket. It comes out of the business that you've bought. So how do we get the money back out? Let me tell you my first plan, and I'll tell you why I've changed my mind. The first plan was downstairs, as I mentioned, there was a huge amount of soft play, you know, the slides, all there's like a frameworks, all padded. You know, if you've been in one of these soft play centers, there's these huge frames for children to climb on, and, you know, ball pits and all of these things. And I had someone value all of that content, you know, all this equipment, and they said it was worth at least £30,000. Okay, well, maybe he was overvaluing it, but I figured, like, I could sell that and get my £20,000 back. Let me tell you why I've changed my mind. It's because we're opening it up next month, and we're going to keep all of that because we can suddenly start generating income immediately from the moment we open, with children coming in on Saturdays, particularly at the weekend, for the play center. So we can generate cash from day one. So I'll get my money back out from the instant sales that we'll make across the summer holidays of people going in there and using the equipment. But I've actually got 6 ways of funding businesses using OPM, other people's money. 6 ways of doing this. But alternatively, if you have to put some money into a deal, and sometimes you want to, if you've got the money, I mean, it does open up more opportunities for you. You know, you shouldn't turn your nose up at it. But if you put money in, you must always have a plan to get it back out. That is the thing. You need to have a plan to get it back out. Now, some of my clients refinance the assets. Sometimes they sell assets, like what I was going to do. Sometimes they use other types of financing to get that money, some sort of cash flow financing to get that money back out. But you've got to have a plan. This is why the more prepared you are when the opportunity arises, you know how to make the most of that opportunity. So this is what you need to do this yourself. There are 4 things that you need, and then I'm going to give you a lovely 7-step process. I'm going to give you the 7-step process, okay? The first thing you need is you need to have knowledge. A little knowledge, as they say, is a dangerous thing. And I know many people today on the webinar, and there are hundreds of you, listen to my podcasts. You are subscribers on my YouTube channel. And that's brilliant. I mean, that's great. But you know what? If all it took was listening to a podcast or watching a YouTube video, don't you think everyone would be doing it? Everyone you know would be buying businesses because they watched a 3-minute video on YouTube. You see, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing. You need to know what you're doing, especially right now. If you're going to be buying businesses from administrators, huge opportunity there, or businesses that are on the verge of insolvency where you've got a plan to turn it around. Even if you're buying profitable businesses, and we spend a lot of time teaching people how to buy profitable businesses, then you need to have the knowledge. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing. You need to have a lot of knowledge. Secondly, you need confidence. You need confidence, and confidence partly comes from having the knowledge, but it's knowing what to say, what to do. And that's where having scripts and templates and knowing that you're not alone. I tell you something, a lot of my clients, those videos that I mentioned of me negotiating the deals, there are 32 of them, 32 different deals. They watch those videos again and again and again, and it almost like plants into their subconscious mind, this is what to say, this is how to do it, this is how to deal with these situations. And then you need to have a deal team. You cannot do this by yourself. The worst time to go and find a deal team is when you found a deal, because it's too late. You can't go on Google looking for a lawyer to help you buy a business once you found the business. You need to have all those people set up in advance. This is where the preparation is just so key. And then you need deal flow. Remember how I do deal flow? From letters. And that's what all of my clients do. They send out letters, and the letters create the deal flow for you and your deal team with your new confidence and your new knowledge to go and buy that business successfully. So here's a 7-step plan. First of all, you need to choose the right sector. I believe that your strategy is 50% of your success. So half of your success is down to you deciding which business sector to buy in, and then which business to buy in that sector. Now, let me tell you what helps with this. If you've got really good deal flow, you've got choices. And when you've got choices, you can decide which business to buy and which not to buy. The reason I buy so many good businesses at good prices is simply because I have lots of choice. You know, if I only had one business to buy, well, it might be lousy, it might be good, I don't know. I've got nothing to compare it with. But I would say, let's get your sector right, and let's choose the right business in that sector, and you're 50% of the way there immediately. Secondly, you need to get your corporate structure right. Now, this is where you need a structure that involves holding companies, special purpose vehicles. You've got to do this right. You never buy a business in your own name, and you never use your existing business to buy a business, because there's too much personal or corporate liability if you do it that way. You need to have the right corporate structure. And it takes me about half an hour to teach why you need to do this and the way you need to do it. So I can't do it justice here. But what I will say is this, is that if you don't get this right, it could come back to bite you at some point in the future. You need to acquire the business on a risk-free basis. And by this, I mean, you must never agree a deal structure that means that you will overpay for the business. I mean, the worst crime you could ever commit is overpaying for the business and looking back and thinking, oh, it was too much. I shouldn't have paid too much. You need to buy on a risk-free basis. To give you a little insight into something, a business that I bought last year, because of the way we did the acquisition, and we put some money in on day one, and we had a plan to get out. We've already got it back out from the trading. However, interestingly, the owner of that business now owes me money because I bought it on this risk-free basis. She now owes me money. I might tell you more about that when I get to know you better. And I always say, how can we fund this acquisition using OPM? Remember, OPM is other people's money. How can we buy this business using other people's money? Because if we can use other people's money, people have more money than we do. So suddenly the doors are open to what can we do here? We could buy businesses. We could buy larger businesses than our current business. You know, I always say to people, buy a business of a certain size. If you buy businesses that are too small, you put all that effort in, you won't make any money afterwards. So I know it's not all about the money, but you know, it becomes rather important when you buy a business to make some money from this. And next, you need to negotiate the deal. Now, this is my favorite part of when I train people, because I think that if you can use my words and phrases and just copy them. And you can copy them wholesale and take those words and phrases, and you can use these to get a better deal for yourself. Your return on investment is going to be absolutely huge. And then you need to understand the legal, the accountancy, the due diligence process, all of this process. Now, while we're on this, I need to tell you some documents that you need. There are 10 documents that you need to buy a business. I'm going to put them up on the screen. And what I would suggest you do is you take a quick photo of this when they are up there. So these are the 10 documents. Take a quick photo of the screen while I'm talking, and then I'll move on. So these are the 10 documents you need to buy a business successfully. You need what we call a non-disclosure agreement that assures the other side that you aren't going to go blabbing around about the deal that you're doing to buy their business. Then you need an initial call checklist. Remember my 14 questions that I always ask people on that very first call? These are the questions that you need to ask to establish whether this is a business that you want to buy. And then we need to have an agenda for that Zoom meeting, don't we? A first meeting agenda. Then we're going to get to head to terms. So I use a template. We just fill in the gaps. And then with a deal timeline that says this happens week 1, week 2, week 3. That will get your deal done faster because everyone knows exactly what they're doing when they're doing it. Then you need a due diligence checklist. Mine has over 100 questions. I give that to the owner and I say, this is all the information you need to collect together and stick in a Dropbox for me. And then we need an HR audit spreadsheet that shows all the staff, what they're paid, any bonus arrangements, when they started working for you, how old they are, all these things for you to establish. Remember, when you buy shares or buy assets, you get the staff. You get the staff, okay? So you need to know how to do that. You also need to have a pre-transaction checklist. Everything that you need to have, all your ducks in a row before you sign on the dotted line. I like to keep owners on a consultancy agreement, which I may or may not use as it happens, but I have a consultancy agreement with them. And then you need the big beast, the sale and the purchase agreement, or the sometimes called the share purchase agreement or an asset purchase agreement. This is what you need, because what this does, this allows you to get the deal done legally. So these are the 10 documents that you need. I'll mention these again a little bit later on. And then you need to know what to do once you take ownership. You need to know in advance what you're going to do. You can't just buy a business and go, hey, we bought a business, pop the champagne. Oh my goodness, I bought a business. What do I do? You need to have this plan in advance so you don't have to make it up as you go along. Now, I get asked a lot of questions about this. Now, if you're outside of the UK, and many of you are, this is a £1 coin. So think £1, think $1, think a nominal amount of currency. Is it possible to buy a business for £1? Yes, it is. Do you find businesses to buy for £1 every day? No, you don't. Every week? No, you don't. Every month? Yes, you could do. But the thing is, if you can find a business to buy for £1, you need to know what you're doing, because it's certainly not for the faint-hearted. But if you can buy a business for effectively nothing, then if you know what to do with it, the return on investment can be huge. And I want to give you a quick case study that shows exactly what I mean. So this was a £1 investment I made in 2015. Was it 2015? 2016. A £1 investment, and I bought a 4.7 million revenue business. So the business was doing 4.7 million. Now, a couple of years ago, it was actually doing 8 million. So it wasn't doing as well as it used to. Remember what I said about opportunity? Remember what I said about, has it been doing well under poor management? Well, this certainly had poor management. So let me give you the figures and let me tell you what we did and how we did it, because I think that you'll find this inspiring. So first of all, 4.75 million business, it was making a £300,000 a year loss. Here is my word of warning. Never buy a business that's making a loss unless you know why it's making a loss and how to fix it. Next best thing is you have someone on your team who knows why it's making a loss and knows how to fix it for you. See, I'm very much about outsourcing things. I'm very much about getting other people, leveraging other people's time and experience and knowledge to do things for me. So I knew why it was making a loss, and we came to the conclusion that we could fix it. The balance sheet of this business was negative £20 million. £20 million. Why? Let me tell you why. 5 years earlier, this business had been acquired by its private equity owners, the people that I bought it from, for £15 million. £15 million they paid for this business that I buy for £1. Think about that. They paid 15 million. 5 years later, I buy it for £1. Why? They didn't want it. They were closing the fund. It was game over. They'd had enough. They just wanted to dispose of it. I look very lucky, but I was prepared. And when I saw the opportunity, I knew what to do. Now, we don't want to buy a business, do we? Well, we owe £20 million. Oh, by the way, the £15 million had accrued interest, hence 20 million, where it owes £20 million back to the original owners, the private equity guys. So I bought the debt for £1. It's like an IOU. It's just a piece of paper. I was assigned that debt from. Now the business owed me £20 million. And I prefer that because I'm not going to call in the debt. We completed the deal in 12 weeks. It was slightly longer than usual because it was a little bit complicated because these private equity guys, they like to make things difficult. It took us 6 months to turn that £300,000 loss into a profit. Would you like to know how I did it? Well, it wasn't rocket science. Like most of these things, they're easy when you know how. We just stopped doing things that made a loss, and we just focused on things that made a profit. So we stopped doing things that made a loss, and we focused on things that made a profit. Really as simple to that. And then we decided to sell the business. It took us 12 weeks to sell the business. And guess how I sold the business? Well, I used letters. I love letters. I love sending letters to people. I sent letters to our competitors, 1,000 competitors. And one of them bought the business. And we sold it for £1 million plus exit in cash 11 months after buying it. So we bought it, let me tell you the dates. We bought it on May the 3rd one year, sold it March the 24th the following year. So it went from a £2 investment, £1 for the shares, £1 for the debt, into £1 million plus cash exit 11 months after buying it. And I hope when I tell people that story, when I tell people how that worked, it inspires you to think, you know what? All I need is one of those. All I need is one. I might find it in 2020. I might find it in 21. But if I'm prepared, then when the opportunity arises, preparation meets opportunity equals you're the luckiest person alive.